Hey, Sean Cooper here, and welcome to Module 3 of Conversation Hacking. In this module, I'll be talking about mindsets. So these are the correct beliefs and thinking patterns to make you more confident in conversations. When I was first advertising this course, I called it Make People Like and Respect You. And that's true. That is actually what this week's training is going to accomplish for you. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to be showing you different tricks to manipulate people into liking you. No, what I hope that you realize by the end of this module is that the key to making other people like and respect you is actually liking yourself and valuing yourself first. And when you like yourself, when you have the correct positive beliefs and mindsets in place, then other people will naturally follow your lead. And other people will actually like you more. They'll be more attracted to you as a person. You'll find that you become more of the type of person that just draws people towards you. And I think what you'll also find is that people are going to make much more of an effort to want to get to know you, to be your friend, and sometimes even invite you out to places when you can get the correct mindsets in place. All right, so what have we covered so far in this program? Well, just as a quick recap, in week 1, I talked about what to say. So one of the biggest questions I get from shy and socially anxious people is the question of what do I say to people? A lot of people who grew up with social anxiety, myself included, we often ran into this problem where maybe you ran out of things to say, or maybe you wanted to speak up to someone that you didn't know that well, or in a group conversation, but your mind was just blank. You didn't know what was the correct or proper thing to say. You didn't know what to say that other people would find interesting, that other people would like. So basically, in that first week, in that first module, I tried to solve a lot of these problems for you. I gave you different techniques for keeping a conversation going, even if you're not naturally good at talking to people. I showed you how to avoid common mistakes shy people make all the time. And these mistakes often cause awkward silences, and they make the conversation go flat. I also talked about what people usually talk about and how you can kind of like structure your life so that you have more things to talk about. I also taught you the different types of conversations and how each type of conversation is a little bit different and what you can say in each type. I also showed you very simple ways to start a conversation with someone and what to say after hello. And then in week 2, the second module, I went deeper than the words. I went from words to nonverbal communication. So in that module, I talked all about how to improve your voice, how to have better body language. I started off by talking about how you can be more relaxed, how you can relax the muscles of your body and breathe better so that your whole communication becomes more expressive. Here's that diagram again that I've shown a couple of times so far in this program. And so what we've covered so far is I went from the very outer layer of conversation, which is the words that you say, and then I went to a bit of a deeper layer, which is nonverbal communication, status, how you say them. And now in this week and next week, we're going to go even deeper. And this week, I'm going to be talking about mindsets. Next week, I'll be talking about what I call your true self. So what do I mean, right? These are kind of abstract ideas. What's a mindset? You know, what is learning to be your true self? Well, the reason why I think having proper mindsets is so important is because when you have a bad mindset, then your outer world will reflect your mindset. If you have a low self-esteem, if you have a lack of inner confidence, then on the outside, you're not going to have friends, you're not going to be able to speak up, You might not be able to have the type of dating life or professional life you want, So your outer reality is a reflection of your inner reality. Your outer world, your outer relationships, your outer actions and feelings, it's all a reflection of how your inside works, how your inner mindsets, beliefs, and thought patterns are working, right? Why is it that one guy can walk into a party and be charismatic, make a bunch of friends by the time he walks out, and another person walks into the same party with the same opportunities, the same other people are there, but that person just stands maybe in a corner, maybe they talk to one or two people who they already know, and then they walk out without forming any new connections. What you're going to realize by the end of this week's training is that the results that you get or don't get in life are really a reflection of your inner self, of how your inner belief system works. And what do I mean by your true self, which I'm going to talk about next week? Well, when I say your true self, I'm going to talk about how to stop performing to make conversations effortless. A lot of advice on becoming more confident or becoming better in conversations or, maybe becoming a better communicator, they say stuff like, be yourself. But the problem is that advice isn't really helpful. It doesn't give you any practical steps to follow. It doesn't tell you what to do. So I'm going to really break it down for you. I'm going to break down exactly how you can be yourself. And to me, being yourself really means being congruent. So if you look in the dictionary, the definition of congruence is being in alignment or being in harmony. So when you're congruent, when you're expressing your true self to people, your outside is matching your inside. See, a lot of people who have shyness or social anxiety, they have this core personality. You have a certain personality on the inside. This is maybe like the way you talk to yourself in your head, but not many people get to see your core personality, your real self. And maybe you hide your real self when you're around people. So to me, becoming your true self and being congruent in social situations means having your inside and outside in harmony. It means eliminating the gap between the persona that you're projecting onto other people and your real core personality. So basically, I'm going to teach you how to be yourself, except I'm going to explain it to you very step by step. Going to give you lots of examples so you know exactly what to do, okay? So why am I going to start talking about psychology and beliefs and mindsets and the way you think, right? Why don't I just stick to talking about what to say and, stuff like body language and voice? Well, it's because this is actually the most important thing, right? Your inner mindsets, the way that your beliefs about yourself work, it's actually the most important thing if you want to become more confident and more talkative around people, if you want to become more expressive in social situations and make connections with people easily. There's a big problem when I see people only focusing on changing outer behavior or only changing the words that they say. And the problem is this. Your body is your unconscious mind. Your body projects to the outside world what you feel on the inside. So even if you do make corrections to the words that you say, if you start talking about more interesting things, or if you make corrections to your overall body language, it's still not enough. See, even if you make those outer corrections, your inner issues are still gonna show through. A lack of confidence or low self-esteem or maybe negative feelings about yourself, that's all still going to show through in your micro expressions when you're talking to people. So what do I mean by a micro expression? Well, whenever you talk to people, you always have expressions, right? You move your arms a certain way, you stand up a certain way, you talk a certain way, you look at people a certain way. So you have expressions. And you always have little micro expressions. These are little cues, little hints in your behavior that show to other people what you're really feeling. your body is your instrument. It's your unconscious mind, right? Your body, your voice, how you say what you say, it's all an instrument that's projecting to people your inner beliefs and how you feel on the inside. So if you feel bad about yourself on the inside and you just try to fake it on the outside, if you just try to act confident by changing your outer behavior, that's going to show through in little micro expressions. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're really shy and then someone tells you that confident people make strong eye contact. So you decide that you're going to force yourself to look people right in the eye very strongly, and you're going to make very strong eye contact. Well, you can force yourself to make that strong eye contact, but if you don't change your inner shyness, you're going to feel very, very uncomfortable making that eye contact. And it's going to be hard to make that eye contact for a very long period of time. And when you do make that eye contact, your inner discomfort is usually going to show through in these little expressions. So you might be making strong eye contact with someone, but they're going to notice that you're not relaxed. There might be some little tension in your eyes. It might be something in the way that you talk to them. It might be just fidget in a certain way. I think making big changes to your body language, using the types of tips that I showed you last week, improving your voice and improving your body language, it's going to make some pretty big impacts to how people respond to you. But if you want to become truly confident in conversations, it's not enough. You're going to have to make corrections in your inner belief systems, in your inner mindsets. You're going to have to become congruent. Again, congruence means being in alignment, being in harmony. When you can fix your inner mindsets, not just your outer behavior, then you're going to be congruent. That means that you're going to be the same person on the inside and the outside. It's not going to be some shy person faking like they're confident. You're going to be a truly confident person. There's going to be no difference between you and some person who grew up naturally confident when you take on the mindsets that I'm going to show you in the next couple weeks. Basically, when you're congruent, when your outer self is in harmony with your inner self, you're not going to be trying to appear different than how you actually are. See, people are very, very intuitive when it comes to conversations. This means that they can sense incongruence from a mile away. They can sense if you're trying to fake it, which is why I think advice like fake it till you make it, which a lot of people give, is actually terrible advice. Because, sure, you can fake things to a certain extent, but eventually people can sense when you're faking it. So, how exactly do you change your beliefs? How exactly do you change your mindsets? I figure I'll just break the bad news to you early in the introduction for this module. You're not going to be able to become a person who is confident and expressive in conversations without going into the real world and sometimes messing up, without expanding your comfort zone. I think a lot of people, when they hear the word mindset or belief, they think I'm going to talk about theory all the time. I'm just going to talk about abstract ideas for the next couple weeks, but that's not true. These modules, this week and next week, they're going to be just as practical as the first two. Belief change and mindset change doesn't happen by sitting in your room. It happens when you go out into the real world. And no amount of repeating certain phrases to yourself or listening to some kind of hypnosis tape is going to overcome bad beliefs. So I am gonna explain to you some ideas which are very important, and they're going to change the way that you think. But the most important thing that you should get out of this week is the process that I'm going to give you for forming new beliefs, right? This is a process for making you more confident. And the reason why I'm using the word process is because a process involves action. Let me share with you a quick story about what happens when you focus too much on theory without any action. So when I first moved to the city I'm living in at the moment, Montreal, I decided that I'd go out and find different meetup groups so I could meet people that might be interesting, that I could click with and I could become friends with. So I went to a bunch of different meetup groups, drawing, improv classes, a new in town meetup group, and there was actually one that kind of caught my eye. It looked very interesting. This was a meetup group for guys who wanted to become better at talking to women, and it was called a pickup artist lair. And now, usually when people hear the word pickup artist, they associate it with some kind of sleazy, manipulative guy who's trying to trick his way into a woman's pants. So I was kind of a little bit skeptical about this name. Anything with the word pickup artist sounds kind of strange. But I decided, hey, this group seems like kind of popular, so why don't I go check it out? Maybe I could find some guy that I could go out and try to talk to girls with. And, if it turned out to be weird, then at least I had a cool story. So the meeting was on a Thursday night on top of this Italian restaurant. So I walked into the room where this meeting was taking place, and I guess I walked in a few minutes late because everyone was already sitting down and they were listening to this guy speak at the front of the room. And I just walked in through the back and I sat down quietly at the back. And I listened to the guy at the front of the room talk about different dating tips for, I think, about 20 minutes. And when this guy was done his speech, he told everyone that, we were free to hang out for a bit longer and talk. So I decided to start talking to the guy who was beside me. This guy, he was about maybe 35 years old. He was wearing a very bright blue Hawaiian button-up shirt, and his haircut was off to the side. It kind of reminded me of the actor who played the 40-year-old virgin, actually. And I know that's a super stereotypical example for a guy who would be at this type of meetup group, but that's what he looked like. So I was talking to him, and he was telling me about how long he'd been studying different dating advice and these teachers that taught guys how to pick up women. And he told me that he'd been studying it for about 3 years. And at first, I was kind of impressed because I thought, wow, 3 years? I mean, I'd only been going out and trying to start conversations with girls for maybe about 2 months at that point. So I thought, this guy must really know his stuff, right? He must be really good at it if he's been interested in it for 3 years. So since I was new to the city, I asked him, so where do you go to meet women? Do you go downtown during the daytime? Do you approach them in cafes? Do you go out to some specific bar? Do you have a favorite club maybe that you go to? And when I asked him this question, the guy kind of looked away and he started mumbling a bit, and I realized that he was kind of making excuses. He was saying things like, oh, well, I don't really go out right now because I have a lot of things to do with my job, and besides, I live kind of far away from downtown, and I don't really have time right now, and I'm working on my lifestyle, and besides, my biggest issue right now, this is what he said, is my inner confidence. So I'm working first on my inner confidence, and then later I'm gonna go out and really apply it when I have more time. This guy even started mentioning to me all the different products he'd bought by a lot of these different gurus and dating experts, basically to help him with his inner beliefs and inner confidence. So I talked to him for a few more minutes, and then after about half an hour, the leader of this meetup group, he said that the time that they'd rented the room for was almost up, so we would all have to leave. But if people wanted to, he said that there was a bar next door that we could hang out with and grab a drink and talk some more. So a few of the guys left, but most of us walked to this bar, and we continued to talk to each other. And now here's the funny part of the story. Or maybe I shouldn't say funny, more like the educational part of the story. So it was maybe, 16, 20 guys at this bar, and we'd all come there basically with a common interest to learn how to become better at meeting women. And now we were in a bar. And this wasn't a little bar. This was a fairly big and popular bar. And there were actually lots of cute girls all around. I saw there was a few groups of 2 girls. There were at least a couple groups of 5 or more girls. There were different groups of mixed guys and girls. And even though all of these guys, myself included, we'd come there to basically know how to become better at meeting women, I noticed that maybe only 2 or 3 of the guys from the group actually tried to go and talk to a girl. Most of the guys, including this guy that I mentioned before, who'd been studying inner confidence for 3 years, they looked around occasionally. I could notice them checking out different girls in the bar, but they didn't approach any. And this doesn't mean that they didn't want to. A lot of the conversations were about talking about the different girls there and how they would actually walk up and, what they would say if they did start a conversation. And I noticed if one guy said, "Why don't you go talk to her?" The other guy would usually make some excuse like, "Oh, she looks busy," or "She's with her 2 friends," or "Oh, I just don't feel like it right now." And I'm not judging these guys, because when I used to be extremely shy, before I'd approached a single girl, I was super anxious about even the idea of doing it. So I completely understand, being too scared to go and start a conversation with a girl. There's that fear of rejection, fear of getting embarrassed, of maybe humiliating yourself, of getting shot down. So I completely relate to this, fear of doing it and even the excuse making. But the point I'm trying to make here is study by itself doesn't get you anywhere. In fact, if you're studying something like dating advice for too long, then you start to get all these different techniques in your head of like a dozen different ways that you could start the conversation, and it's just too much information if you're not taking action. You get stuck in a paralysis by analysis. You don't know the first step to take. So the point here is that if you want to improve yourself, if you want to become more confident, have a more expressive personality, then it's not enough to sit in your room and study information about inner confidence. Belief and mindset change happens out in the real world. Your actions must change along with adopting new beliefs. And, if any of this sounds complicated so far, don't worry, I'm going to break it down for you completely in this week's training. So let's begin.